Fox News alert, Vice President Kamala Harris in a tough spot at a town hall when she tried to answer questions about the border crisis, which exploded on her watch. I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. Anderson Cooper, CNN, was pressing Kamala Harris about the border.
3 weeks before the first presidential debate with Joe Biden, you institute executive actions that had a dramatic impact, really shut down people crossing over. Why didn't your administration do that in 2022, 2023?
First of all, you're exactly right, Anderson. And as of today, we have cut the flow of immigration by over half. In fact, the numbers I saw most recently, illegal immigration
But if
is
it was
low.
that easy with that executive action, why not do it in 2022, 2023?
Because we were working with Congress and hoping that actually we could have a long-term fix to the problem instead of a short-term fix.
You couldn't have done one and both at the same time?
I think we did the right thing.
You criticized the wall more than 50 times. You called it stupid, useless, and a medieval vanity project. Is a border wall stupid?
Well, let's talk about Donald Trump and that border wall. So remember, Donald Trump said Mexico would pay for it? Come on, they didn't.
But you're agreeing to a bill that would earmark $650 million to continue building that. So you don't think it's stupid anymore?
I think what he did and how he did it did not make much sense because he actually didn't do much of anything.
But you do want to build some wall?
I want to strengthen our border.
Sounded like she didn't know what was in the bill. A new poll shows, well, which candidate do they actually trust to handle the border better? More than half of voters in this poll saying former President Donald Trump would be better on immigration. This is all the while a report says that there is a massive group of another one of those caravans. Look at your screen. 150,000 of these people are being held in Mexico until after the election day. So that's a blessing. At least they can hold them for a little bit, but that feels awfully political. So if Kamala Harris wins, they don't come in. And if Donald Trump wins, they let them in after election day? Like, how is it going to work? Some of those people say that they were afraid a Trump victory would keep them out of the United States. Well, if they're coming in illegally, they're not wrong. Senator Rick Scott called out the Biden administration's inaction to actually strengthen our nation's border.
They don't care that terrorists are coming across our border, drugs are coming across our border, criminals are coming across our border, and they don't support the police. So how violent do they want this country to be? She takes no responsibility for anything in her job.
How violent? The New York Post editorial board also criticizing the White House with this. Harris-Biden's last-minute migrant moves are an attempt to hide their border mess. National correspondent Griff Jenkins. Griff.
And Harris, border officials are concerned that some of those migrants in Mexico could be part of the violent Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, or TDA as they are known, and they're taking a foothold across the country. DHS says they've identified more than 600 migrants with possible ties to the gang. Some could be relatives or victims, but more than 100, Harris, have been deemed subjects of interest and referred to the FBI's watch list for transnational criminal organizations. TDA is suspected in crimes in 15 states: Arizona, Texas, Chicago, New York, Georgia, and Florida. Just on Monday, the man accused of sex trafficking a 15-year-old girl in Palm Beach County is being investigated for TDA ties. The gang has also been linked to the murders of Jocelyn Nungare and Laken Riley in the shooting of NYPD cops. Florida's Attorney General blames the Biden-Harris administration.
They've let them come in. They've barely vetted them. Now we're seeing them pop up all over our nation. And they cannot, even if they tried to do it now, cannot send them back to Venezuela because Venezuela says we won't accept them.
DHS says the gang is still in an infancy stage, but they're targeting them as a threat, saying as part of our work to counter TDA, DHS has an ongoing operation to crack down on gang members through rescreening certain individuals previously encountered, in addition to the rigorous screening and vetting at the border. This all comes, Harris, as a House Judiciary Committee report today released claims the Biden-Harris administration has used the immigration court backlog as an excuse to allow nearly 1 million illegal migrants to to stay in the U.S., calling it a quiet amnesty. Now, the report cites briefings to the committee revealing more than 700,000 immigration cases that were dismissed, terminated, or administratively closed, and, quote, allow those aliens to stay in the country indefinitely without facing immigration consequences. Additionally, they say DHS failed to file necessary documentation in 200,000 other cases. Finally, there's another new report, this one from a conservative organization that alleges a DHS official has been promoting illegal immigration on social media platforms like YouTube and TikTok, although Fox News has not been able to confirm the official's employment. Harris?
So, Griff Jenkins, that's astonishing. The DHS says that TDA is still in an infancy stage, and they're terrorizing. So what happens when they reach adolescence?
Well, it's a great question, Harris, because let's put this in perspective. 4 years ago, no one had ever heard of Tren de Aragua or TDA gang members. Now, as we showed you, more than 15 states. And what the DHS official told me is that they're not capable of sophisticated organization, but one thing's for sure, they're a growing threat, and border officials are prioritizing targeting them.
Thank you for your reporting, Griff.
Thanks.
Getting us started here. Congresswoman Kat Cammack, Republican of Florida, member of the Energy Committee, the subcommittee on the weaponization of the federal government as well. Congresswoman, I don't know if you could hear that, but I just am really curious about how much we are underestimating these people with the numbers growing by the day of them coming in. And this is with the numbers tamped down, right? Because they've been flying people in. Have any of the TDA been on any of those flights? How can we find out? How do we as a public vet the government? Because it sounds like we need to.
Right. No, you're 100% right, Harris. And I know that as we dig into this, and part of the reason why we don't know this information is because DHS has been unwilling to come forward and be transparent with Congress. So we know certainly TDA will have members that have been flown into the United States at taxpayers' expense. But here's a disturbing trend. For the 9 times that I have been at the southwest border, I can tell you, talking with agents and with people at the border myself, these individuals are paying the cartels to come here. And the ones that pay subsidize the efforts of the drug trafficking and the sex trafficking. And what we're seeing is historically, the cartels would subcontract with American gangs to conduct the drug trade in America.
Wow.
Now we're seeing an overwhelming amount of people coming across the border to the point where why even bother subcontracting when you can do the business yourself? Cut out the middleman. That speaks volumes about how much of a cash cow the Biden-Harris illegal open border really is to the cartels and to the gangs. This is insane.
That sounds like a shift, though, in their strategy. And it's almost like a syndicate. And I've said this before. So you come in, you pressure those who you want to now. You don't go through the American gangs. I mean, they are shifting their strategy. And the DHS is saying that they're still in infancy stage. What are we going to wait for them to just declare war all out on our soil?
Well, clearly, why wouldn't they when there's no repercussions or consequences for their actions? That's why they're operating in a lot of states that have no cash bail. They're going to places that they know they won't be harassed by law enforcement, where they're weak on crime, soft on crime. We've all seen the infamous photos of these gangsters flipping the bird to the cameras and to law enforcement, knowing full well they'll get a slap on the wrist and they'll be on the streets the next day. There are no tough laws in place that are being enforced right now, which is why these gangs, these cartels are operating with impunity.
Just real quickly, what needs to be done right now? Like when you think, okay, this is the urgent thing we can do.
You know, I think we need to, one, enforce the laws on the books. 2, we actually have to get rid of the Soros policies in place, and when there have to be consequences. We need the deportations. We need to get these people out of the country that should have never been here in the first place. There's a long list of things that we have to do, but the catch and release policy, it is literally killing Americans, as we know.
And again, that's something you could take care of, the current president with his pen. But he's had 3.5 years to do that. 3.5 years to do it. He put Kamala Harris in charge as the VP. She's had 3.5 years to do it. They're not doing it. Congresswoman, thank you very much.
Hey, everyone.